Okay. I can get started with a word of prayer. Our Father in heaven, oh Lord, thank you again so much for this time that we can get together and worship and study your word. Dear Lord, as we go through this important subject today, we just pray that your Holy Spirit will be with us. Open our hearts and open our minds that we may see your truths. We ask in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so tempted but victorious. Okay. We are going to be tempted, but we also are going to be victorious. Okay, Ema, go ahead and start.
Okay. I haven't seen the next slide yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There we go.
James 1:12. Blessed is the man. Wait, I'll put this one. Blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. So tried is tested and proven acceptable.
Right. So the Bible says that when we endure temptation, okay, blessed is the man that endureth temptation. So we're going to endure temptation. And we're going to be blessed when we endure that. Now, it says when we endure temptation, that means when we endure and we get victory over it. Because when we are tried, in other words, when we're tempted and we're victorious, then we receive the crown of life. You know, and the Bible tells us that many, many, many times that the temptations and trials come to us so that we can learn and that we can overcome. And as we overcome them, then we will be saved. So it says when he is tried, it means when we are tested and proven acceptable. So we do have to, we have to make it through these trials and these temptations. Remember, temptation is not sin. Sin comes after temptation, but temptation can lead to sin depending on what's going on. Okay, Genia.
Our faith must be tested in this world, overcome in our behalf, and thus made possible for us also to overcome. We must endure trial and temptation here, and the faithful, we shall receive the crown. Blessed is the man that endure temptation, for when he is tried,
Oh, couldn't hear the last parts. Anyway, so Christ was tempted and he overcame, and therefore through his power, we can also overcome. Nessie?
We shall be exposed to manifold temptation, but this, if rightly borne, will refine and purify us, even as gold is purified in the fire. Yet when exposed to the allurement of the world, that which we had thought to be gold proves to be but dross. Our Redeemer sees the situation, and he counsels all to buy of him gold, tried in the fire, which is true faith and genuine love, the grace that will not be destroyed by fierce temptation.
Okay, so the temptations, if we get these temptations and we overcome them, they're there to refine and purify us. Remember, there's gold and there's false gold. So a lot of people, they are attracted to something that's shiny in that, but it could be false gold. That's what this world is. The world is false gold. And when we're attracted to that, then we'll find out later on there's nothing there. Okay, Jean, the Ema. Ema? Hello? Ema?
Cannot hear.
I guess she's lost, okay. Okay,
Virginia.
go ahead and read that, Gina.
Okay. James 1:13. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempt he any man.
Right,
God does not tempt us, but he allows us to be tempted. Why? To strengthen us.
right, so we need to be strengthened, and when we are put in a situation where we have to make a decision, that does two things. First of all, it allows us to make that decision, but it also shows God and the angels where our interest is. In other words, are we going to be tempted by the devil? Are we going to fall, or are we going to overcome those temptations? Ema said she was having problems earlier. Now, 1 Corinthians 10:13 says also, there is no temptation taken you, but such is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that you may be able to bear it. So in other words, when we are tempted, the Bible says that when we're not tempted extraordinary. We get the same temptations that all men get. But the thing about it is, God, remember, everything that comes to us comes through God. And here's a promise: He will not suffer us to be tempted above that we're able. In other words, God knows our abilities. He knows what, let's face it, if you're a new Christian and you've been struggling with something, you're going to have a lot of problems with some of those temptations that you had before. And so God is going to allow you to be tempted, but He's not going to allow the temptation to be so strong that you can't resist it. In other words, He knows what you can handle, and He's only going to allow the temptations to come that you are able to handle. And He also allows you, in other words, He gives you a way of escape. So he does two things. First of all, he makes sure that the temptation is not so strong that you can't deal with it. And second, He gives you a way to get out of it. Now, then it becomes your choice. Am I going to follow the temptation? Am I going to just continue and be sin? Or am I going to overcome that temptation and take the way of escape that God has given us? Gina, you want to read this?
I lost the screen. I lost the screen.
You lost the screen?
Oh,
You got it now?
no.
Okay,
Scroll.
scroll it across or something.
View option. What's that?
No,
Share screen.
nope. Just move to the other screen. See if you can. If you-
Only your two faces ang nakikita ko eh. Your faces, both of you, but there's no.
No, not.
Okay, move that one off the screen or something. Or is there a little next to the faces, there should be either,
What will I sweet content? Oh, just smart.
Temptation is not a sin.
You are viewing doon.
Move it to the left, to the right.
or to the right, yeah.
Move it to the left or right.
Yeah, pull the screen off to one side or the other.
How is it? Only your two faces, eh? But I
Okay,
cannot see.
move
What-
our faces off the screen.
Okay na.
Okay, why don't you leave
Wait.
and come back?
I'll just call my husband, ha? Paturo lang. Wait.
System says I'm offline.
Okay,
Faces lang nilang nakikita ko eh. Hindi ko ano yung... pero yung babasahin ko, hindi ko makita. Hindi lumalabas. Alin dyan ang aking ipipindot.
They don't have internet anymore.
Yan. Okay na.
got it now?
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Is it the sign of the times? December 18?
Right,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Okay. Temptation is not sin and is no indication that God is displeased with us. The Lord suffer us to be tempted, but he measures every temptation and apportions it according to our power to resist and overcome evil. It is in time of trial and temptation that we are enabled to measure the degree of our faith and trust in God, and to estimate the stability of our Christian character. If we are easily disturbed and overcome, we should be alarmed, for our strength is small.
Okay, now notice that temptation is not sin. But God allows us to be tempted so that he can apportion it. He knows how much we can, he knows how much we can withstand and resist. So when we see these temptations coming and trials, that tells us how strong we are in God. Because if we give in to these temptations, that means we're not very strong. You know, it's if the temptations come to us and we overcome them, then we know that Christ is working in us. Nessie.
Okay, let us consider the words of comfort that have been left on record for our instruction. There had no temptation taken you, but such as in us in common to man, but God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that he may be able to bear it. God has a portion to the temptation in proportion to the strength he can supply, and he never permits us to be tempted beyond our ability to resist or to endure.
See, now that's a really good promise. He never permits us to be tempted beyond our ability to resist or to endure. So he knows what we can handle. The Lord knoweth how to deliver the godly out of temptation, 2 Peter 2:9. Blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord hath promised them. Read that earlier. Through prayer and the word of God, we shall be enabled to overcome temptation. So let's take a look at this. Jean, you read this, Job 9-12.
Job 1:9-12. Then Satan answered the Lord and said, Don't Job fear God for naught? Hast not thou made an edge about him and about his house and about all that he had on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land.
Go ahead.
But put forth thy hand now, and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, all that he hath is in thy power, only upon himself put not forth thine hand. So Satan went forth for the presence of the Lord.
Okay, so here's an example that the Bible tells us that it's very obvious that God protects us, okay? For even in verse 10, you see, Satan is saying, well, no wonder Job honors you and glorifies you, because you've made a hedge about him. Nobody can get to him, so you're protecting him. And that's what Satan is saying. So Satan can't get to him because he's being protected. But then Satan says, but let me have some power, and let's see what happens. And so God gives Satan permission. But remember, he says, everything that he has is in your power, only upon himself. In other words, you cannot hurt him. You can hurt him. You can't hurt him, but you can take everything that he owns. So he was limited. So he's limited. So God limited Satan. So this is what happens. We know that, we know that God limits Satan. Okay. So there's a lot of promises in Psalm 91. And so we can go ahead and read that. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. See, here's a promise, but the promise is we have to dwell in God. When we dwell in God, then we will be under his shadow. I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge, my fortress, my God, in him will I trust. Surely he will deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. So we have some promises here. If we give our lives to God, dwelling in the secret place of the Most High, he will take care of us. He will be our fortress, our refuge, and he will deliver us. Nessie?
Okay. Psalms 91, he shall cover thee with his feather, and under his wings shall thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that findeth, and that fleeth by day, nor by the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasted at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee.
So these are all promises, but these promises, again, depend on one thing. We need to be dwelling in Jesus. We need to have our life in him. If our life is in him, all these promises are ours. Go ahead, Genia.
Only with thine eyes shall thou behold and see the rewards of the wicked, because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. For he shall give his angel charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. They shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone.
Okay, again, we've got more promises, but again, we have to make the Lord our strength. That's where we have to put our life. Nessie?
Okay, thou shalt tread upon the lion and adder, the young lion and the dragon shall thou trample under feet, because he had set his love upon me. Therefore will I deliver him. I will set him on high, because he had known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him, honor him. With long life will I satisfy him and show him.
So we have a lot of promises here. So we remember one thing, that everything that happens to us has to come through Jesus. The trials, the temptations, and the good things, all of that, it all has to come through God. We have his promise of protection. If we follow him, he will protect us. He will not allow a temptation to come that we are not able to handle. And when the temptation comes, he will provide a way of escape. And all that is going to prove one thing. We have no excuse to sin. There's no reason for us to sin. Now, if temptation is not sin, when does temptation become sin? Okay, Gina, you want to read this?
Okay. James 1:13-15. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempt he any man, but every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. Then he when lust hath conceived, it bring forth sin, and sin, when it is finished, bring forth death.
Okay, now there's a number of steps in these verses. So the birth of sin, a sinful thought, the first thing happens is a sinful thought comes into our mind.
Yes.
Okay, so at that point, the temptation is coming. Nothing wrong. It's just we're being tempted. Now we start to think upon it. Okay, that thought comes into our mind, so we think upon it. And as we consider it, guess what? We think more about it, and the desire grows. Now it's growing into sin. Then the thought wants to be expressed in action. Okay, so the thought has come, we think upon it, and it grows to the point where it wants to be expressed in action. And then as opportunity affords, action occurs. Okay, so let's take a look at this again and how it is. Now, this is the verse in NIV. But each person is tempted. Now, my stages are here, or the stages here. The rest of this is the NIV, but the stages is our thing. Okay, each person is tempted. One, first of all, they're dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. Okay, so the thought comes to someone, and stage one, they start thinking about it and they're enticed. Oh, that sounds pretty good. I think I'll do, I like that. That's a good idea. Why not? So that's what happens. That's stage one. And then as we do that, stage two, desire has conceived. In other words, I like that. I think I'll do that. Okay, so when we've done that, we have now given birth to sin. Okay, the sin is in our mind. All we're looking for now is a place to do it. Okay, now, just like a baby, it takes a while to conceive a baby, right? Takes 9 months from the time the baby is conceived to the time it's given birth. Sin does not happen all at once. Sin takes time. First of all, the thought comes, then you start thinking about it, it starts growing, and as you think about it, it grows and grows, and eventually it comes to the point when that sin is full-blown, and at that point in time, you have death. So, the 5 stages of sin. Stage 1, seduction, right? Okay, husband and husband and wife, they start thinking about things, and then the seduction comes first. Then comes conception. After conception comes birth, then comes growth, and then comes death. So, where is Satan in these stages? Do you see Satan in here anywhere? Genia,
Seduction.
do you see Satan anywhere here?
Yes.
Where?
Number 1 is stage 1.
In stage 1, possible, okay. let's look at that. Does Satan tempt us?
Yes,
Yes.
Is it his fault that we sin?
no,
No, our own fault.
Okay, so Satan can tempt us, but when we sin, it's our fault. Nessie, read this.
It is true that Satan is the great originator of sin, yet this does not excuse any man for sinning, for he cannot force men to do evil. He tempts them to it and makes sin look enticing and pleasant, but he has to leave it to their own wills whether they will do it or not.
See, here's where the rubber meets the road. Satan may originate sin, he may tempt us, but he can't force us to do it. He can tempt it, but he can't force us. He can make it look good. Oh man, he can make it look really good. But again, it's up to you and I to decide whether or not we are going to sin. Now notice he does not force men to become intoxicated. Neither does he force them to remain away from religious meetings. But he presents temptations in a manner to allure to evil. He's going to make it look good. And man is a free moral agent to accept or refuse. It's our choice.
Yes. It is not in the power of Satan to force anyone to sin. Sin is the sinner's individual act. Before sin exists in the heart, the consent of the will must be given, and as soon as it is given, sin is triumphant and hell rejoices. But there is no excuse for sin, either great or little.
Okay. Notice that before sin exists in the heart, the consent of the will must be given. So right there is where sin starts. The temptation comes, but then consent must be given. Okay? Once consent is given, sin exists. You don't have to do it. All you have to do is
Think about
consent to do it.
Think about it.
Yeah, so the consent or the acceptance of that sin is when sin happens. Nessie?
And temptation is enticement to sin, and this does not proceed from God, but from Satan, and from the evil of our own heart.
Okay, so temptation is not sin, but it's to bring it. Temptation wants to make sin look good. Okay, and this does not proceed from God, but from Satan. Now notice the temptation comes from Satan, but God allows it. Okay,
Mhm.
God allows it. So temptation comes from Satan and also from the evil of our own hearts. Let's face it, Satan really doesn't have to work very hard because we have so many desires that are sinful that they just come from our own hearts. Notice that although he implants evil thoughts into our minds, he often uses our own perverted senses to tempt us. Often desire springs from our own sinful hearts. He uses the things around us to stimulate our own sinful desires, lust of flesh, lust of the eyes, and pride of life. So he implants the idea in our mind and he makes it look good, but again, it becomes up to us to do it. Nessie?
The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? With a heart like this, Satan doesn't have to work very hard.
You see, the Bible said our heart is deceitful and desperately wicked. So does Satan really have to work hard?
No,
No, we have all these desires. But the problem is we say the devil made me do it. And that's a lie, because the devil didn't make you do it. You wanted to do it.
Yeah.
You can't put this off on someone else. Sin is the decision of the individual to do. When you follow something that is not right, you know it's sin, and that is, you've already sinned. If you're doing something that you know is wrong, you're sinning. Genia.
Often Satan conquers us by our natural inclination and appetites. These were divinely appointed, and when given to man, were pure and holy, but men's natural appetites have been perverted by indulgence. Through unholy gratification, they have become fleshly lusts, which war against the soul.
Yeah, so, he uses our own natural inclinations, our own desires, our own appetites. Now, remember, God gave us these appetites. And when he gave them to us, they were under control, under our control. But when we sinned, those appetites became perverted. And so what happens is, now those appetites are under the control of Satan and not under the control of God. And because of that, that's where we fall. Go ahead, continue that.
Unless the Christian watches unto prayer, he gives lost rein to habits, which should be overcome. Unless he feels the need of constant watching, ceaseless vigilance, his inclination abused and misguided, he will be the means of his backsliding from God.
Yeah, so in other words, we need to always pray. We need to pray for the Holy Spirit. We need to pray for God's power. Because if we don't, our habits will take over. You see? Because we've been doing these things for years, and they'll just take over. And so we need,
All our life.
we will be overcome. Nessie?
1 Corinthians 9:27, but I keep under my body and bring it into subjection, lest that by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be accustomed.
Yeah, Paul was saying, he preached God to all these people, but the point is he had his own problems, his own temptations, and he always had to keep it under subjection. So, if we don't, we're going to be lost. Now, here's an example. And it came to pass after the year was expired, at the time when kings go forth to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel, and they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Rabbah. But David tarried still in Jerusalem. So we're talking about when David was at war. It was time for war, and they were going against the Ammonites, but David decided to stay home instead of going to war. And it came to pass in an evening tide that David arose from off his bed. And walked upon the roof of the house. And from the roof he saw a woman washing herself, and the woman was very beautiful to look at. David sent and inquired about the woman. So David is, this is about David and Bathsheba. So David was supposed to be at war, but he stayed home. And then he goes and he's looking around and he sees this woman taking a bath. And of course, she's naked. And so he asked about her, and someone said, "Is this not Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" Right there. There was, someone said, "Well, she's the wife of someone." And there should have been enough for David. But it wasn't. He sent messengers, took her, and came unto her and lay with her. Okay, so we have this situation of David. He was tempted, and he had a way of escape. Because right there, there was an escape there. You know, someone told him she was already married. But he didn't take that way of escape. Okay, Ema.
Okay, before the conclusion of the war with Ammonites, David, leaving the conduct of the army to Joab, returned to Jerusalem. The Syrians had already submitted to Israel, and the complete overthrow of the Ammonites appeared certain. David was surrounded by the fruits of victory and the honors of his wise and able rule. It was now, while he was at ease and unguarded, that the tempter seized the opportunity to occupy his mind.
Okay, continue.
Okay. The fact that God had taken David into so close connection with himself and had manifested so great favor toward him should have been to him the strongest of incentives to preserve his character unblemished. But when in ease and self-security, he let go his hold upon God, David yielded to Satan and brought upon his soul the stain of guilt.
Right, so, you know, here we have an example of someone that, you know, he was tempted, God made a way of escape. Now, you see, the thing is he had other wives. So, you know, why, but his mind,
He's already
I gotta have that one,
tempted.
okay. Jeannie, you wanna read this one?
Genesis 39:7-12. And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, Lie with me. But he refused and said unto his master's wife, Behold, my master would not what is with me in the house, and he had committed all that he had to my hand. There is none greater in this house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?
Continue.
And it came to pass, as he spake to Joseph day by day, that he hearkened not unto her, to lie by her or to be with her. And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the man of the house there within. And she caught him by his garment, saying, Lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand, and pleaded and got him out.
Okay, so here we have the other story of Joseph. He was again tempted. Now, a lot of people don't understand the temptation that Joseph had. The clothing of the Egyptians, basically they were naked when they were running around. They were saying that the dress of a woman in that day could be pulled through a ring. Okay, so the material was that sheer, and it was that thin. So basically, you know, she was naked. You know, she was clothed with a very fine, very fine sheer material, but Joseph, his mind was not on her. He didn't see that. And notice that he said, how can I sin against God? So we have two examples here. We have David and we have Joseph. Both of them, you know, have to do with women. And one fell and the other one didn't. Okay. Ema.
Okay. Arriving in Egypt, Joseph was sold to Potiphar, captain of the king's guard, in whose service he remained for 10 years. He was here exposed to temptations of no ordinary character. He was in the midst of idolatry. The worship of false gods was surrounded by all the pomp of royalty, supported by the wealth and culture of the most highly civilized nation then in existence. Yet Joseph preserved his simplicity and his fidelity to God.
Go ahead.
The sights and sounds of vice were all about him, but he was as one who saw and heard not. His thoughts were not permitted to linger upon forbidden subjects. The desire to gain the favor of the Egyptians could not cause him to conceal his principles. Had he attempted to do this, he would have been overcome by temptation. But he was not ashamed of the religion of his fathers, and he made no effort to hide the fact that he was a worshiper of Jehovah.
Yeah, you see, this is the problem. A lot of times we are afraid. I mean, a lot of people sometimes are afraid, even when they go to eat out at a restaurant, they're afraid to bow their heads at the table and say grace because, oh, somebody will see. You know? If we believe in something, we should stand for it 100%.
Yeah.
You know, now notice he was one who saw and heard not. In other words, his thoughts were not permitted to linger upon forbidden subjects. That's where sin comes, when we start thinking about things that we're not supposed to think about. The thought can come into our mind, but that's when we kill that thought. And as we read this, Nessie?
Second Corinthians 10:5, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. Sin starts with a single thought.
See, we need to bring every thought into captivity to obedience to Christ. The thoughts of the heart are discerned of God. When impure thoughts are cherished, they need not be expressed by word or act to consummate the sin and bring the soul in condemnation. Its purity is defiled and the tempter has triumphed. So when we have a thought in our mind and we think on that and we cherish it, we're already sinned. Our mind has been defiled, and Satan has won. Remember, the Lord knoweth how to deliver the godly out of temptations and to reserve the unjust unto the day of judgment to be punished. Again, going back over this, God only allows the temptations that we can handle, and he also gives us a way of escape. And at that point in time, it's up to us. When that temptation comes, that's when we should kick the thought out of our mind. When you kick the thought out of your mind, you won't spend any time on it. And if you can't kick that thought out of your mind, then what you do is you go to the Bible and ask God for power. Lord, I'm having a problem with this. Read your Bible. Pray about it, and God will help you. That's where we struggle. Okay, Genia.
Revelation 3:10. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth.
Okay, so God has a promise here. You know, if you keep me or stay with me, I will keep you from the hour of temptation. I will help you. Okay. Emma?
James 1:2-4. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that you may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing.
Right,
One thing.
wanting nothing. So that's the result of having many temptations, diverse temptations, many different types of temptations. As our faith is tried, we become perfect.
Yeah. You know, our mind is really very bad.
Essie?
Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me.
So can we be overcomers?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Because we can do all things through Christ that strengthens us. Also, Nessie, go ahead.
John 5:15, I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me, you can do nothing.
Yeah, so we cannot do anything on our own. We need the Holy Spirit and Jesus in our heart. Genia.
God has given you moral powers and has made you susceptible to religious influences. He has provided opportunities and facilities that are favorable to the development of a Christ-like character, and it now remains with you as to whether or not you will cooperate with divine agencies and make your calling and election sure.
Continue.
Yeah.
Go
Teka
ahead.
sandali. Just a moment. I have to get out for a while.
Yeah, Genia. Oh,
Okay. Will you not cease appreciate and appropriate every help that has been provided? You must pray, believe, and obey. In your own strength, you can do nothing, but in the grace of Jesus Christ, you can employ your powers in such a way as to bring the greatest good to your own souls and the greatest blessings to the souls of others.
yeah, so we cannot do anything on our own, but if we pray, believe, and obey, God will give us the power so that we will not have any problems. And to finish up that thing, it says, lay hold of Jesus, and you will diligently work the works of Christ, and will finally receive the eternal reward. Be faithful in that
It's-
which is least.
That will be great.
And this short little statement from Patriarchs and Prophets. The secret of success is the union of divine power
With you.
with human effort. So we have to make an effort, but God provides the power. You provide the will, God will provide the power.
Mhm. Mhm.
Nessie.
Man can accomplish nothing without God, and God has arranged his plan so as to accomplish nothing in the restoration of the human race without the cooperation of the human with the divine. The part man is required to sustain is immeasurably small, yet in the plan of God, it is just the part that is needed to make the work a success.
Well, the part that man is required to sustain is, you can't even measure it because it's so small. Yet, it is required to, in the plan of God, to make it a success. We don't have much to do, but that little tiny bit that we have, that is given for us to do, is what makes this thing work. Genia.
Apart from divine power, no genuine reform can be effected. Human barriers against natural and cultivated tendencies are but as the sandbank against the torrent. Not until the life of Christ becomes a vitalizing power in our lives can we resist the temptation that assail us from within and from without.
Yeah. So we cannot do anything unless we have Jesus in our lives. Go ahead and read this one too.
When the soul surrenders itself to Christ, a new power takes possession of the new heart. A change is wrought which man can never accomplish for himself. It is a supernatural work, bringing a supernatural element into human nature. The soul that is yielded to the Christ becomes his own fortress, which he holds in a revolted world, and he intends that no authority shall be known in it but his own. A soul that's kept in possession by the heavenly agencies is impregnable to the assault of Satan.
Right, impregnable.
Impregnable.
Right. In other words, Satan cannot get in there. You know, so we need to give ourselves to Jesus. That's the only
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
I mean,
Every
you know,
minute.
we keep reading this and that, but you know, we don't do it because we have our own desires. We want to do things our way. We are independent. I can take care of it. When I need help, I'll call on you, Jesus. That's what we do. That's exactly the way we do it. Ema.
Christ has given us the assurance that to attain perfection of character is an easy matter. A noble all-around character is not inherited. It does not come to us by accident. A noble character is earned by individual effort through the merits and grace of Christ. God gives the talents, the powers of the mind, we form the character.
Continue.
It is formed by hard, stern battles with self. Conflict after conflict must be waged against hereditary tendencies. We shall have to criticize ourselves closely and allow not one unfavorable trait to remain uncorrected. Let no one say, I cannot remedy my defects of character.
Okay, so far we've got some interesting things here.
Yes.
Notice the character does not come to us by accident. Individual effort through the merits and grace. He gives us the talents and the powers. We need to form the character.
Yes.
He tells us, he gives us the power. What's the we form? That is the choice that we make.
Yeah,
That's the choice. And notice it's formed by hard, stern battles with self. In other words, giving up our independence, giving up our ego, giving up the things we want, and doing the things that God wants. And notice that we're really fighting against hereditary tendencies. These are the things that came to us from our parents. Criticize ourselves. Don't allow one unfavorable trait. This one's a strong statement. Let no one say, I cannot remedy my defects of character. If you want to, you can change. Because God will give you that choice. That he'll give you the desire to change. He'll give you the power to change. But you have to make the choice to change.
and yes.
Okay? Nessie?
If you come to this decision, you will certainly fail of obtaining everlasting life. The impossibility lies in your own will. If you will not, then you cannot overcome. The real difficulty arises from the corruption of an unsanctified heart and an unwillingness to submit to the control of God.
Okay, so it says, if you say, I cannot remedy my defects of character, that's what it says. If you come to this decision that you cannot remedy, you will fail of eternal life.
Yeah.
Okay, remember, it's in your own will. If you will not, then you cannot.
And
And it's unwilling to submit to the control of God. It's as simple as that.
it is a child.
That's where sin lies. It is just, it's an unwillingness to obey God. It's, I want to do my thing. That's all that sin is. It's, I want to do my thing. I don't want to follow you, God. Genia?
Matthew 7:13-14. Enter ye in the straight gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go is straight. Because straight is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it.
See, this is one of the problems that we have in Christendom today. We have so many churches and so many Christians, and everybody thinks they're going to be saved, but what does the Bible say? Few there be that find it. There's going to be a lot of unhappy Christians when Jesus comes. Why? Because they haven't made the choices to follow Jesus. They've come to church, they've done the things that they want, they do their life, they're happy with their life, but they don't want to follow Jesus.
Yeah.
They'll go to church, but that's as much as they'll give up of their life. They'll give up a couple of hours a week, but the rest of the week is their life. That's where the problem is. nobody really wants to give their life to Christ. And that's why this text is there. You know, there's going to be a lot of people destroyed, but very few that are going to be saved. Why? Because they don't submit to Christ. That's what it's the bottom line. Okay, Ema.
The belated traveler, hurrying to reach the city gate by the going down of the sun, could not turn aside for any attractions by the way. His whole mind was bent on the one purpose of entering the gate. The same intensity of purpose, said Jesus, is required in the Christian life.
See, those cities, remember, they had a lot of, they were all walled. They all had walls and they had gates. And when it came to a certain point in time, that gate was shut for the night. Okay, and if that gate was shut and you were not in the city, then you were outside. And outside you had animals, wild animals, you had robbers, you had all kinds of things. So if you were outside the gate, you are not safe. And so if you're running late, you know, they needed to be there by the time that gate was closed. Otherwise, they were locked out. Nessie.
I have, I have opened to you the glory of character, which is the true glory of my kingdom. It offers you to no promise of earthly dominion, yet it is worthy of your supreme desire and effort. I do not call you to battle for the supremacy of the world's great empire, but do not therefore conclude that there is no battle to be fought nor victory to be won. I bid you strive, agonize to enter into my spiritual kingdom. The Christian life is a battle and a march, but the victory to be gained is not won by human power. The field of conflict is the domain of the heart.
That's where the fight is being won, is in the heart. The battle which we have to fight, the greatest battle that was ever fought by man, is the surrender of self to the will of God. That's the battle that we're fighting. We're not fighting sin, because you can't beat sin. You've got to beat self. Self, once you make that choice to give yourself to God, and when sin comes, you continue to give yourself to God, then God will help you. The yielding of the heart to the sovereignty of love, the old nature born of blood and the will of the flesh, cannot inherit the kingdom of God. Hereditary tendencies, former habits must be given up. Ema.
The divine spirit works through the faculties and powers given to man. Our energies are required to cooperate with God. The will must be placed on the side of God's will. Then you will work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. For it is God which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. Philippians 2:12-13.
God gives us the desire to do good.
Yes.
And he gives us the power to do good. He gives us the desire. Remember, a desire is like a temptation. The desire to do good is a temptation. Are we going to? That's the temptation we want to succumb to. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You know, it's just like, you know, you've got Satan giving you ideas and God giving you ideas. And which set of ideas are you going to follow? 1 John 4:4, ye are of God, little children, have overcome them, because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. In other words, we can't lose, because if God is in us, he's greater than anything else that's in the world. I mean, he's more powerful than Satan. Nessie?
1 John 5:5, who is that overcometh the world, but he that believeth that Jesus is the Son of God.
So if we believe that Jesus is the Son of God and we follow him, we will overcome the world. Genia.
Revelation 3:21. To him that overcome will grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame, and I am sat down with my Father in his throne.
So if we overcome, God has promised us, Jesus has promised us to sit with him in his thrones. We will have our thrones, even as he overcame and sat down with his Father in his throne. So we will all be kings and priests in heaven if we overcome. Okay. So that's the lesson for today. Tempted, but victorious.
Yes.
It's
Satan gives us temptations. Our own mind is tempted just by the things we see around us, right?
Yes.
And you notice sometimes that if you're working on a particular issue, if you've got something that bothers you, a sin that bothers you, you notice that everywhere you go, it seems to pop up, right?
Mhm.
You see something that reminds you of that, that entices you. That's the way Satan works.
yeah.
But he uses your own, you're the one that makes the decision. He uses your desires. He knows what you like. So he's going to continually bring these things up in front of you.
Yeah, our mind is very.
This reminds me of a video I saw about do you know what subliminal I can't think of the other word now. But there's something, about when you might be watching a movie, and how many frames per second are in a movie? About 30, I think 30 frames a minute, a second, or sometimes it's 60. But
Mhm.
they tried this a long time ago, and as they were doing, as they were talking about the, say, for instance, if you're in the theater and they were telling you about the different things, what to do before the movie and all that, they would throw in one picture into the movie about, say, popcorn, and they do this about every second. They throw in one picture in every 60 frames or so. That picture went by so fast that you didn't see it, but your mind saw it.
Yeah.
And then you buy popcorn.
And then you buy popcorn. Right, and you don't know why, because that idea has been implanted in your mind.
That's subliminal.
Subliminal perception or something.
Yes.
And Satan does the same thing with us.
Subliminal messages.
He throws
Yes.
these little things. We might be going somewhere. And we're struggling with something, and there'll be something way off in the corner. Something that's not noticeable, but Satan will bring your attention to that. You notice that sometimes?
Yeah. Mhm.
But again, it's our choice.
Yeah.
It's our choice.
It's always our choice.
The temptations, there's no excuse for sin. If we know what's right and what's wrong, and we don't do what's right, we're sinning. And there's no excuse for that. Especially if we know particularly. If we're not following the Bible, then we know that we're not. Then we're sinning. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And overcoming that sin is not necessarily the problem. It's overcoming ourselves.
Yeah, ourselves.
Our own selfishness. Well, I don't want to give that up, because if I do, I'm going to lose this or I'm going to lose that.
Mhm.
See,
Yeah.
that's the problem. So this is a decision that each one of us needs to make. You need to make that decision every day,
Mhm.
every moment.
Yeah, every day. It's a challenge.
Any questions? I know you
I
missed part of it. You missed part of it. You're gonna have to go back to Facebook or something.
Because there is a stages of temptation.
Yeah. You missed that part about temptation.
Okay, I will go back to the lecture.
Can you send
Yeah,
that?
I used my cell phone as my personal hotspot. That's why I was able to come back.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I'm glad you were. Okay, no, nothing else, Phil. You know, we're getting close to the end of these things and you you guys need to have a good spiritual life. You need to be able to spend time with Jesus every day. You need to spend time in prayer, time in the Bible. You know, if you don't do that, you won't make it.
Yeah, I'm convincing my family to attend our Bible study. But then we have to start all over again. It's like giving them the same background that you gave us.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure if it's going to be worth your time to do it, or it has to be something that has to be organized with more people so that it's going to be worthwhile.
Well, the thing about it is that this is a good Bible study, but you know, and it's good, but we need, remember what we did when we started. We started with the basics, right?
Yes.
And it was all 100% Bible.
Yes.
Yes.
Then we moved into Daniel and Revelation.
Yes.
And that was mainly 100% Bible, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then we moved into this one, and this one is part Bible and part Ellen G. White,
Spirit.
Spirit of Prophecy. Now, a lot of people, unless they understand, they look at Ellen G. White as, well, actually, the Seventh-day Adventist Church has been, you know, people say we are a cult because we follow, okay, we follow someone who is a human. But, you know, the problem is that is totally wrong. Everything you and I have studied has come from the Bible, right?
Yes.
What we've done is in these character building, we've taken Ellen White because she has added so much. She's magnified the biblical version, the Bible. She's magnified that and given us more information. And so as you've gotten the basic, the theology, you got all that from the Bible. Our character building came from both the Bible and what she has written, because a lot of what she has written is based on character building. You see, and to give that to people that are not biblically aware and recognizing that we are not following a lady, but when you recognize what she is writing is very biblical, right? You see, and unless you are aware that would be difficult to give to people that haven't had that you know, that development.
We can start at the
But you know, if you want to start Bible studies, and you know, I'll be glad to start, you know, and go where we are. I mean, if people are, you know, if they want to start with questions, and we'll go through some of this stuff quickly. It's up to you. I mean, you've got the Facebook, you've got that.
You have the papers.
You've got, and if you go to revivalseminars.org, these are on video, these are on YouTube.
From the start, is it there?
Yes, from the start. They're all on YouTube.
Any of the seminars that you mentioned are similar to what we've already taken up? The Bible seminars?
I'm sorry?
Did you mention Bible seminars?
No, Revival. Revival.
Oh.
REVIVAL. You know,
Yes,
Revival.
I thought I heard something like Bible seminars.
Yeah, no, revivalseminars.org.
or revivalseminars.org. Okay.
And if you look on YouTube, on YouTube and if you search YouTube for revivalseminars.org, you will find these Bible studies there.
But not from the beginning, only this
Yeah.
one,
No, they're from the beginning, every day. They're downloaded
since the beginning.
since the beginning. And of course, Facebook, my Facebook page has all the Daniel and Revelation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So are you saying that, Don, that I can do the seminars on my own with my children?
If you want, yes,
It
Yes.
will be very, very.
that will be good for you too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, I will look
But
at the revival seminars.
you know, and it will help you a
Y-
lot.
Yeah, you know what happens whenever I go to funerals? I couldn't help thinking that whenever the priest says that, oh, she's in a better place because she's now resting in the bosom of the Lord. I can't help but roll my eyes and say, is he talking real? He's just talking
now
for real.
look
And then my children, and
Yeah,
then the children would tell me, Mom, but she's still in the grave, right? She's not going up yet or going down yet.
you know, what's on Revival Seminars are these videos, not the original ones that we did way back.
Okay.
very
So-
start.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to start with the regular Bible studies, I'd be glad to start with that. You know, we can do 8 or 10 or 12 weeks, whatever we need, you know,
Yeah.
the very beginning.
Because what you yeah, what I recall that how we started was we started with asking the difficult questions.
That's
Yeah.
And then when we got them out of the way, that's when we started
Revelation,
doing
Daniel.
yeah, then we started doing the Daniel and Revelation.
Right. See, because you need,
But I sent my children an email summarizing what we have learned. I said, I want to share this with you and I want us to have a Bible study to talk about this. And then you can ask difficult questions as well.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good. That's
you know,
good.
we can, if you want to set one up like that, let me know, because I'll be glad to do it.
Yeah. You know, we need
Okay.
other, and you know, and
Okay.
so
I
happy you will share it to
Yeah.
your family.
Let's close with prayer first, and then we'll,
Stop.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Our Father in heaven, again, thank you so much for this time that you've given us. And dear Lord, help us to realize that every moment of the day, we need to make a decision for or against you. And if we make that decision against you, we will be lost. And the only decision that we really need to make is the decision to submit our own desires, our own will to you. And our Father in heaven, we ask you for your Holy Spirit. Help us, give us the power that we need to make that decision. We ask in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I'm so happy that you will share it with your family. How about you, Jinya?